This is a lot of stuff. And I really want to read all of it. Well, just the Torah portion, the Genesis portion, because we can't miss any of this. This tells a story that every single detail is so awesome, and it plays a part, and it shows us and it proves us who Yahweh is and that Yeshua is in everything. How many of you have ever felt like you've been in a divine setup? Like you just know that the Father has orchestrated something, has put you in a position at the right place, at the right time, talking to the right people, your paths cross just at the right place, and you're able to do something for Him, for the kingdom. Have you experienced that before? This is really the big theme, the big picture of this portion, because we have been deeded an inheritance. We have purchased, we inherit the purchase that Abraham has made for us. We get to inherit the land, and it is rightfully ours. We good? Okay, as they're working on that, let's go ahead and start. You can open your Bibles to Genesis 23. We're starting at verse 1. And it says, and I'm going to be reading from the Scriptures translation. And Sarah lived 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham rose up from bedside his dead, and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a sojourner among you. Give me property for a burial site among you, so that I bury my dead from my presence. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my master. You are a prince of Elohim among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us withholds from you his burial site, from burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your desire that I bury my dead from my presence, hear me, and approach Ephron, son of Toshar, for me. And let me have the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me for the complete amount of silver as property for a burial site among you. And Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of the city, saying, No, my master, listen to me. I shall give you the field and the cave that is in it. I shall give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I shall give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people, saying, If only you would hear me. I shall give the amount of silver for the field. Take it from me, and let me bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My master, listen to me. This land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. Thus the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, and the field of the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial site. So, the 400 shekels of silver. Did a little bit of research on that. That equates to about 7.25 pounds of silver. I don't know how much silver is per ounce at the moment, but I'm sure it's pretty expensive. Now, when he said 400 shekels, that was like full price. Now, when I mean full price, I mean like an exorbitant price. 400 shekels was not something that at that time a laborer or an artist could earn in his whole lifetime. So, the 400 shekels was not a discount. And Abraham knew it. He wanted to pay absolutely the whole price for the land so that there would never be any question as to, well, you got that land for a discount. We gave it to you cheap. So, really, we're going to take it back from you. There's no chance for that. He ensured at that time that he was going to pay top dollar for the property. For us. It's recorded, it was witnessed, and it's legally binding. Isn't that good news? It is good news. Okay, picking up in Genesis 24, verse 1. And Abraham was old, advanced in years, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in every way. And Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, "Please put your hand under my thigh, so that I may make you swear by Yahweh, the Elohim of the heavens and the Elohim of the earth, that you do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. But go to my land and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Yitzhak." And the servant said to him, "What if the woman refuses to follow me to this land? Do I then take your son back to the land from which you came?" And Abraham said to him, "Beware lest you take my son back there. Elohim of the heavens, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my relatives, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, 'To your seed I give this land.' He sends his messenger before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there." Abraham's got a different perspective now that he's super old. He knows that he's getting close to the end of his life. And he's telling his oldest and top servant that's in charge of the area, in charge of his house, that he's got overseeing things for him. He's told him, "Go over there," which is Mesopotamia, "and go to my homeland and see if you can find a woman for my son from my own tribe." Verse 8, "And if the woman refuses to follow you, then you shall be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there." Then the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master and swore to him concerning this matter. Now, as I was doing research for this, and haven't you ever thought, well, I wonder what's the deal with the thigh thing? You guys, have you ever researched what's the deal with the thigh thing? Okay, so I'm going to tell you. The whole importance of swearing an oath, we do that today in our own American court system. We swear an oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And there's different variations of what you say, depending on what you want to say. You raise your hand, and you put your hand on something that is like sacred to you. It can be a Bible or whatever, depending on what it is that you know that you're going to have to be responsible for the divine power and to mankind, that you're going to be honest and that you're going to tell things the way that you see it. So, swearing an oath, okay, I'm going to give you a picture. Is this the inner thigh? No, okay. So, the inner thigh is on the other side, on the inside, which is very close to male private parts, right? This oath dealt with the perpetration of Abraham's seed. Is it clicking? Okay, this is why it was so important, because this is for Isaac to have a wife that was chosen by Yahweh himself, the right woman for Isaac. Now, it was very important for this to be a divine setup. Verse 10, and the servant took 10 of his master's camels and left. There's 10 again. For all his master's good gifts were in his hand. And he arose and went to Amram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a fountain of water at evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, Yahweh Elohim of my master Abraham, please cause her to meet me before this day and to show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I am standing here by the fountain of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now, let it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your jar to let me drink. And she says, drink, and let me water your camels too. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant, Yitzhak, and let me know by this that you have shown kindness to my master. So, typically in the beginning of the day and towards the end of the day, the young women went out in groups and they took jars. The jars were approximately around the size to carry 3 gallons. And they would go to draw the water and then go back home. Okay, so for a man to be in that area at that time wasn't common, because that was the time for the women to be there. And so if a man was there, he was because he was thirsty, and the water needed to be drawn from the well. And so it was common that, if a woman sees a man, are you thirsty? Do you need some water? So that's what he did. He stood there and he saw someone, and as he was praying, he asked, he put out a fleece to the father and said, now if it's the right girl, that the one that I'm supposed to go to, please let her say, not only can I have a drink, but she will offer to water the camels as well. Now, we don't have the presentation up, but these camels, I'm going to show you a picture. If the camels haven't drank water in about a 3-day time period, they can drink about 25 gallons each. And they don't drink water to fill up their humps like a lot of people think. Okay? This is a dromedary camel, which is a 1-hump camel. And this is the kind of camel that the servant had, Eleazar, and he was taking these 10 camels along with him on this trip. So these camels had the potential to require drinking a whole lot of water. to offer quickly like she did. Oh, yes, I'm going to give you some water. Here, let me give you some water, and I'll water your camels too. What does that show about her heart? She had a servant's heart. She offered it. She didn't need to be asked, will you water my camels too? This seemed like, wow, maybe this is the one, because she already met his fleece. She already met his requirement of what he prayed, but he was going to watch and see. Okay, let's pick up on what's the last one I read? Okay, 19. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, let me draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking. And she hurried and emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the fountain to draw water, and drew it for all camels. And watching her, the man remained silent in order to know whether Yahweh had prospered his way or not. And it came to be, when the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden nose ring weighing 1/2 shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels of gold. Verse 23, and said, whose daughter are you? Please inform me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? Because he wasn't alone. He had assistants traveling with him. He had all these camels, and there was more people. And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor. And she said to him, we have both straw and fodder enough, and room to spend the night. And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yahweh. What did she just reveal to him? She's from Abraham's tribe. There's more. Verse 27, and he said, blessed be Yahweh, Elohim of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his kindness and his truth toward my master. As for me, being on the way, Yahweh led me to the house of my master's brothers. Then the young woman ran and informed those of her mother's house these matters. Now, giving a gift of a nose ring and bracelets, okay, and in researching this through some Bible commentaries and Book of Jasher and just different things, the nose ring was a popular jewelry item of the day, but it didn't mean anything. It was just a popular jewelry item for women. The bracelets. If you had a bracelet like that on your wrists, it indicated betrothal. And she put them on. Verse 29. And Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man to the fountain. And it came to be, when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrists, and when he heard the words of his sister Rebekah, saying, thus the man spoke to me, that he went to the man and saw him standing by the camels at the fountain. And he said, come in, O blessed of Yahweh. Why do you stand outside? I have myself prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man came into the house while he unloaded the camels and provided straw and fodder for the camels and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him, and set food before him to eat. But he said, let me not eat until I have spoken my word. And he said, speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant, and Yahweh has blessed my master exceedingly, and he has become great. And he has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and male and female servants and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old, and he has given to him all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, do not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell. But go to my father's house and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son. Now, this sounds kind of strange because, you're going to go send your servant to go pick a wife for Isaac, the son. He's never seen her. He doesn't love her. He doesn't know her. He's never met her. So that was actually the tradition of that day. It's much different than the tradition of our day. Now, I'm going to ask the married folks out there in the congregation, what if you had married the person that you first fell in love with? Our standard is, we're going to have to love this person, and we have to know each other very well, and all of these things. And all, it's not wrong. It's not bad. But it's just indicative of the difference in culture from back then to today. I think most of the married couples in the congregation would say, I'm really glad I did not marry the first person I fell in love with. Because you can fall in love with many wrong people. But Yahweh has a divine setup appointed here. Verse 39. And I said to my master, what if the woman does not follow me? But he said to me, Yahweh, before whom I walk, sends his messenger with you, and shall prosper your way. And you shall take a wife for my son, from my relatives, and from my father's house. Then, when you go to my relatives, you are to be released from this oath. If they do not give her to you, then you are released from my oath. And this day I came to the fountain and said, Yahweh Elohim of my master Abraham, please, if you are prospering the way in which I am going, see, I am standing by the fountain of water, and when the maiden comes out to draw water, and I say to her, please give me a little water from your jar to drink. And she says to me, drink, and let me draw for your camels too. Let her be the woman whom Yahweh has appointed for my master's son. I had not yet ended speaking in my heart. Then see, Rebekah was coming out with a jar on her shoulder. And she went down to the fountain and drew water. And I said to her, please let me drink. And she hurried and let her jar down from her shoulder and said, drink, and let me water your camels too. So I drank, and she watered the camels too. And I asked her and said, whose daughter are you? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. Then I put the nose ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrists. And I bowed my head and worshipped Yahweh, and blessed Yahweh Elohim of my master Abraham, who had led me in the true way to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. So what does that mean? Okay, what's the relationship? What's the connection here as far as relative-wise? Isaac and Rebekah are second cousins. And that's separated enough so that it's all kosher. Verse 49. And now if you are going to show kindness and truth to my master, let me know, and if not, let me know, so that I turn to the right or to the left. And Laban answered, Bethuel too, and said, the matter comes from Yahweh. We are not able to speak to you either evil or good. See, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as Yahweh has spoken. Laban, he's the oldest son of Bethuel. He's a son. Where's Bethuel? Bethuel was already an old old man as well. And Laban pretty much had kind of taken over as far as the responsibilities of the house, responsibilities of all of the daughters, responsibilities that dealt with the family. So he was watching out. And what about, too, the control and the oversight that Abraham had on Isaac? You know, he wasn't saying, well, you know, if you don't find a wife for her over there in Mesopotamia, Abraham is not to go over there. He's to stay here. Isaac was watched. They monitored him and oversaw. His mother and his father took very good care of Isaac. They didn't allow him to go off places. They were really watching what he was doing. He had a lot of strict rules. In Hebrew, a match between a man and a woman is called a shidduch. And finding a shidduch for someone else is considered to be a great deed. And it's actually something that the Jewish community takes really, really as something that you want to do, as a responsibility of mishpachah. So if you see someone who is suitable for someone else in your family, you would say, maybe so. Maybe so. And that was considered a really good deed. Okay. Verse 51. Still in chapter 24. See, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as Yahweh has spoken. And it came to be, when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he bowed himself towards the earth before Yahweh. And the servant brought out ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they arose in the morning, he said, "Let me go to my master." But her brother and her mother said, "Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10, then you go." So they stayed for 10 more days. There's 10 again. And then he said to them, "Do not delay me, since Yahweh has prospered my way. Let me go so that I may go to my master." That's right, he didn't stay. And they said, "Let us call the young woman and ask her." So they called Rebekah and said to her, "Are you going with this man?" And she said, "I shall go." So they let go Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "Let our sister become the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and let your seed possess the gates of those who hate them." And Rebekah and her young women arose, and they rode on the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and left. And Yitzhak came from the way of Beer Lahai Roi, for he dwelt in the south. And Yitzhak went out to mediate in the field in the evening, and he lifted his eyes and looked and saw the camels coming. And Rebekah lifted her eyes, and when she saw Yitzhak, she dismounted from her camel. And she had said to the servant, "Who is this man walking in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "It is my master." So she took a veil and covered herself. Now, back in that day, and it even carries over to American tradition, in weddings, it's frequent that a bride wears a veil. And after the wedding, the groom takes the veil off. Okay, we don't know, I don't know what this veil might have looked like. I don't know if it was like a solid fabric or if it was like this. to hide her face. I don't know if we have an actual picture or a sample of a traditional veil. But what she did was when she got off the camel, she demonstrated to Isaac, I'm your bride. And here I am. Verse 66. And the servant told Yitzhak all the matters he had done. And Yitzhak brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. And he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus Yitzhak was comforted after his mother's death. You know, taking her into his mother's Sarah's tent now meant that she's taking the place of the matriarch. Sarah went, she passed away. She lived to be 127 years old. And now Yitzhak has married and has taken a wife, Rebekah, who is now filling that matriarch spot. Chapter 25, verse 1. And Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. And I have in my notes here what these names mean. Keturah means that makes the incense to fume, and spices. Okay? Keep that in mind. Verse 2, and she bore him Zimran, and Yokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbag, and Shua. And Yokshan brought forth Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Ashurim, and Lechuim, and Lemumim. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abida, and Adiah, and these were the children of Keturah. Now Abraham gave all that he had to Yitzhak. He gave all that he had to Yitzhak. But we just read here all of these other names. Right? That's a lot more kids. But he gave all that he had to Yitzhak. Verse 6. But to the sons of the concubines whom Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living, and sent them away from his son Yitzhak, eastward to the land of the east. You hearing some very awesome things here? And these all the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 175 years. And Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, aged and satisfied, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Yitzhak and Yishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Toshar the Hittite. And the field which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth, there Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah. And it came to be after the death of Abraham that Elohim blessed his son Yitzhak, and Yitzhak dwelt at Beer Lahai Roi. And this is the genealogy of Yishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Mizraite, Sarah's female servant, bore to Abraham. And these were the names of the sons of Yishmael by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Yishmael, Nebaioth, then Quidar, and Adbeiel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tuma, Yetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These were the sons of Yishmael, and these were their names by their towns and their settlements, 12 chiefs according to their tribes. So, Yitzhak and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. Ishmael came back to bury his father with Isaac. Okay? And also, and that was in verse 9. Now, I want to go back to verse 6. But to the sons of the concubines whom Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living and sent them away from his son Yitzhak, eastward to the land of the east. Okay. I found something here. Okay, so Keturah gave Abraham a bunch of children. Now, it's not mentioned in the scriptures, but it was typical for the scriptures to only document the names of the males. Likely, there were daughters in there as well. So, she had many children, Keturah did. Also, Abraham had concubines who also bore him children. But remember, he gave everything he had of a great wealth to Isaac. What would you think those other kids would say about that? Do you think they'd be a little bit jealous? That would create somewhat of a strife, sibling rivalry? Exactly. Well, he got everything, they would say, likely. Now, the children got gifts, and they were provided for, and they were sent to the east. You know, these children are still angry with Isaac today. And all those eastern countries are still angry with Israel today. It only takes about 1 minute to watch on the news or in any newspaper to see the anger that still exists because of this sibling rivalry today. But the good news is that the inheritance belongs to Isaac. Verse 16, chapter 25. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these were their names by their towns and their settlements, 12 chiefs according to their tribes. And these were the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Hawilah as far as Shur, which is east of Mishraim, as you go toward Ashur. He settled before all his brothers. So, the big picture here is that Isaac had a legal deed. Isaac and his offspring received the inheritance. He is the true and rightful heir of the land, and anyone else does not have that same exalted place as was given to Isaac, because they don't have the true legal deed. It was not given to them. You know, the children of the concubines, the children of Keturah, the child of Hagar, those children had much lesser rights to anything from Abraham than Isaac did. They didn't have a right to everything Abraham owned. That was solely given to Isaac. So today, we even have evidence of these camels in the land. on the buildings in Mesopotamia area, the one-humped camel. So, this portion tells us what? The big picture is that we're in a holy, divine setup. How many of you like being set up by Yahweh? It is what we should pray every day of our life, for opportunities to be set up by Yahweh like this. So I encourage you all to pray for these divine, holy setups, because they're really fun and they're really powerful. And Yahweh's army are more than conquerors, and we can do this. We can be these holy setups because we are the ones who are doing this. He's using us as vessels. So let's empty out our own stuff and put in the Father's stuff so that we can be effective for the kingdom. Amen? All right. Awesome stuff, huh? That's an awesome portion.